I want to start off this session by emphasizing how incredible engagement on LinkedIn is. I personally know Yasmin through engaging on his content. He posts almost every single day without fail at 11:30 in the morning, London time. I comment on your posts regularly, and somehow you always reply despite getting like 1,000 plus engagement. I don't know how you do it, Yasmin. So you have essentially become a part of my morning routine. And one comment after another, here we are getting an hour-long session with you, the number one person brand on LinkedIn Tea. That, my friends, is the power of engagement. I would like to emphasize on. And on that note, I would like to welcome you, Yasmin, to introduce yourself, the king of engagement, for anyone on this call who may not know who you are, what you do. Um, let us know about you, Yasmin.
Hey everyone, I'm Yasmin and I love burgers. There we go. No, for everyone who may not know me, I'm a copywriter, last 15 years, brand strategist for a lot of Fortune 500 brands. And on LinkedIn, I just write and coach people left and right. I work with some of the biggest creators on the platform. I'm their coach. And yeah, these days I'm practically just traveling around the world, speaking on stages, doing keynotes and talks and workshops and trainings. And when I can, I also do it online, just like this. So today, hopefully, you're going to have a whole lot of actionable takeaways and a whole lot of golden nuggets. So if you want to take notes, I would love to see what you cook up with. If you're going to tag me in a post afterwards, I would love to see what you cook up with. But yeah, for the most part, if you have any questions, I think we're going to have a Q&A session at the very end. Feel free to leave it in the chat for the very end. That's it. I'm ready to get the show started.
So let's get the show started then. My first question to you, Yasmin, as the number one person brand on LinkedIn, how did you do it? What's your secret? To be more specific, if you have to pick one attribute to your success, what would you say that is?
My success on LinkedIn, I feel like mostly comes from the fact that I did not give up, even though that's kind of ironic because I first gave up 2 years in a row at the very beginning. So that's the irony of it. In 2020, when I first wanted to start posting, I was already experienced. I already had the background behind me, a lot of clients. Up until that point, I was working on, freelance platforms like Upwork, for example, and then grew outside of Upwork. But I didn't have any social media presence. So 2020, I wanted to post on LinkedIn. I failed. I quit after 5 days. 2021, New Year's resolutions. I started again. Took me about 5 weeks and then I quit again. And then 2022, January 1st, technically a couple of days earlier, but January 1st, I would attribute it to, the first of the year. I started and I never looked back. I was focused on posting what I loved, posting what I found interesting. I always follow the advice of a YouTuber, a tech reviewer, Marquez Brownlee, MKBHD. Some of you may know him on YouTube. He always says that he makes the kind of videos that he would watch in the first place. To me, that was kind of a filter for what I wanted to post on LinkedIn. I didn't just want to treat LinkedIn like a diary. I see a whole lot of folks just doing exactly the same, where they're going to have coffee or they're going to meet someone in the street. Hey, I just met this person, him. And I'm like, I just wasted a post. Like who cares, right? Who cares? That's kind of just for me and my group chat, for the family chat, right? My LinkedIn was always geared more towards professional development, where I feel like every single time I post, it has to strengthen my name in other people's ears and other people's minds. It has to give someone something very applicable. And outside of the content, I knew I had to be present in a whole lot of places. Like Fatma said at the very beginning, engagement was a really huge part of my game. I was everywhere. And for years, I was spending 4 or 5 hours on the platform. I never kept that a secret. I was literally just living on the platform at a certain point, and I made sure that people knew about me. I made sure that everywhere I've gone, every creator's post, the big influencers at the time, I was first to comment, and I made sure I left really good comments. Like you'll come back 2, 3, 4 hours later and you'll see a post and you know whose comment is first. You will always see my name and my comment with the most reactions, most everything, because I treated it very strategically. But yeah, after a while, the more you do it for people, then the, psychological reciprocity effect kicks in. People start to return the favor. And people started coming back to my content, to tell you the truth. That was it. I was just investing a whole lot of time in building these relationships, expecting absolutely nothing in return. And then over time, people just came back and we started building on our own content. And then the content itself was the strength, it was the driver, right? We were pushing out really good content, really applicable, really shareable content that was just appealing to the masses. I wasn't, kind of like what I said at the very beginning. I made sure that what I posted, I would want to read that. Personally,
Yeah.
I would want to read that. And if I was just posting stuff out there that someone told me, hey, this works, this is a trend, or you need to post XYZ topic because of XYZ audience, it never would have worked. So I feel like just trusting my gut, writing what I loved, and really doing a whole lot of things for other people, and then people coming back. Those two steps, so the writing part and the engagement part, those were really, really the keys to success on LinkedIn. So yeah, today it's just on autopilot.
Mhm.
Everything just works. People are following, people are showing up, and I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still out there. I'm still in front of other people. I'm still showing up in other people's content to this day, even after all these years. But yeah, you got to do it, got to do
So
it.
how long would you say it would take to build a strong foundation like that?
To tell you the truth, in my case, it took me about 4 or 5 months at the very beginning to really start to see some traction. And when I say traction, what I really mean was getting some opportunities in the DMs or in the comments. It wasn't just chasing likes and comments, it was really chasing something beyond that, something that was measurable in my pocket and in my wallet.
Yeah.
So 4 or 5 months, that's how long it took me. Um, at that point, we stopped chasing the likes and comments and we started focusing on the business side of things. I'll be completely honest. Up until that point, I was just chasing the likes and the comments because I was trying to build presence, right? Because you can't sell to an audience if you don't have one. First, you have to build an audience, then you sell to it. So that was kind of the hierarchy of things. That was step one was building the audience. Step two was finally giving them something they loved, and step three was scaling it and getting it to new heights. So there we go.
Amazing. It's actually very similar to the amount of time it took me. It took me 5 months to get that sort of traction as well. So yeah, I think that sounds about the right time.
Yeah.
And there's one thing that you mentioned, how people use LinkedIn as a digital diary, which I have seen as a common mistake of personal brands as well. And in your case, you have the strongest personal brand on LinkedIn, and I would like to highlight that. You mentioned only a few aspects about your brand persona. Like you mentioned how you're single father and that you're from a country an unrepresented country. There are a few aspects that you keep talking about, and that's how you build your personal brand persona, and you don't talk about everything that you're doing. So it's very strategic, like you mentioned. So what other things can strong personal brands on LinkedIn do differently to make that sort of presence for themselves?
I feel like the one thing that everyone can do to build a stronger, more unique, more authentic brand on LinkedIn is to just share what they mean. I feel like a whole lot of folks out there are just chasing trends. They're trying to fit into this box of here's what's working right now. And a lot of the times, those things will not work for them, right? And then you'll hear complaints like, oh, the algorithm hates me, or the platform is changing, or organic reach is dead. None of those things are true. None of those things are true. I feel like if we all just had a very honest conversation with ourselves first and said, these are my values, these are the things I stand for, and these are the things I firmly believe in. And then we shared those things in our content, regardless of not whether someone else agrees with that, right? Or not. Share it because that is your brand. I feel like I've been very adamant from the very beginning of my LinkedIn journey that comments are the greatest LinkedIn hack for growth. And I know a whole lot of my buddies, really good friends these days, right, on LinkedIn, they disagree. Guess what? That's totally fine. There are other LinkedIn coaches, LinkedIn trainers out there that advise completely opposite things from what I do. But it is very possible that two things are true at the same time because what works for me may not work for you, and vice versa. I feel like that's step number one. We can't just say things because of the fear that people might not like it. But what we end up doing is we end up not saying the things in the first place. We feel like, oh, yeah, this is a controversial opinion, right? If I say that comments are the one thing, people might say, no, it's the DMs, because how can you convert otherwise? And I'm like, okay, this has worked for me. It has worked for thousands of others, and I can confidently say that it works. If you want to say that DMs are the one, that DMs are number one, the DMs come above comments, you do your thing. I'm not going to say that. You do your thing. Step number one, own your voice, guys. Own your voice. Don't try to fit the narrative. Don't try to just do things because, oh, it's trendy or you see it working for somebody else, including myself, including my own stuff. You'll see a whole lot of stuff on my end that works. Seemingly everything works. Every single post goes viral. Every single post gets 1,000+ comments. And you're like, I want to do what Yasmin is doing. Don't. Sure, analyze it. Try to understand what it is that's working. But don't just try to be like, oh, Yasmin is doing, let me do it as well. It may not work. So I'll stop right there for the moment.
Yeah, no, absolutely. This is what in fact, with your content, text posts tend to do really well, which are not working for other creators at the moment.
Exactly.
Exactly. So I would absolutely agree with do what works for you and figure out what your audience wants from you. And I have led my personal brand that way. Let my audience decide what content they want to see from me and then double down on that. Um,
Exactly. I'll tell you my background. So when I first started posting content on LinkedIn, this was back when I had like 4,000 followers. I was posting standard, copywriting tips, ads. Like you can actually scroll down on my post and see those early images that I was posting. Those were ads, and I was, going through Twitter and whatever, marketingexamples.com, whatever. I'd see something that's really cool and I'd be like, okay, let me explain the concept behind this. Or an ad that I worked on or a campaign that I worked on for clients, I would share that, right? And I would share the psychology behind it. But after a while, I started sharing the LinkedIn side of things, the strategic personal branding side of things, the psychological side of things that were working for me. And I was like, okay, if it works for me, it may work for someone else. The second I started sharing that, it just skyrocketed. And it told me, like the market told me, my audience told me, we want to hear about this from you a whole lot more than those freaking ads, than those analysis of, oh, there was a, ecological friendly brand awareness campaign. We want to hear about it. They didn't want to hear about it from me, at least. So I was like, you know what? Let me kill that part of my brand, of my content strategy, and let me focus on the things that people actually want to hear from me. So at the very beginning, just to draw the comparison, I was talking about copywriting tips. I was talking about brand messaging, and I was talking about ads. Over time, to this day, today we're talking about LinkedIn growth, personal branding, and writing. Not copywriting per se, but writing in general, all the psychological bits, writing as communication, right? So we've outgrown what we wanted to do, what we thought was going to work, to the thing that actually works because your audience will tell you. And that is truly something I've said over the years many times. Your audience will always tell you what you need to do. Because if you keep doing the thing where you feel like, oh, this has to work because, again, Yasmin is doing it, for example, and it doesn't work, then it's a sign that you can't just become someone else. You have to own who you already are. And that's the essence of personal branding. Personal branding on LinkedIn, I feel like when you finally grow a following, when people know who you are, it doesn't create something new. It doesn't create this new persona. It just amplifies who you already are. You essentially just reveal to the world who you are to more people. So branding isn't about creating this new persona and
yeah.
you becoming something new. No, it's actually just amplifying who you already are.
Love that. Amazing. And like you said, audience-led brands are stronger, make stronger personal brands. Do you have any other tips to build not just an audience, but a loyal following? Because I see on your platform, the reason why people show up every day at 11:30 to comment on your post, it's not because of what you're posting at this point, it's because they really appreciate what you have to say. So how can one build a loyal following like that?
Oh, that's a really good question. If you want to build a loyal following on LinkedIn where people keep coming back, and people keep coming back, and every time you post, they're there waiting in line, you need to cover several things. First,
Okay.
never ghost people, okay? Host and ghost is a phrase that exists on LinkedIn because it's real. And it especially exists with bigger accounts, right? Once you reach a certain point where the traffic you get on your post is sort of unbearable, you either hire a virtual assistant or you don't do anything at all. So you just end up publishing content or scheduling, and then you're not there once the posts go live, which is a huge mistake. Think about this. When does the news air on TV every day? 7 p.m. In most countries, it's 7 p.m., right? The news, at 6:59. When you turn on the television, everyone's seated down in the living room. At 7, you're gonna hear that. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, what's coming up at 7 p.m. But imagine if you just showed, if you sat down there at 6:59 and you had the logo news and nobody was there. Quite literally, nobody was there. You have the text underneath, but there's no host, there's no news anchor, there's no person speaking to you. The same thing goes for your posts. When they schedule the posts, they get published and you're not there. You're not there to engage with the people who are reading it and commenting below. Step number one, never post and ghost. Actually be there for people, because if you're not, they're not going to keep coming back. So step number two, for people who are coming back, you got to figure out ways to keep them there for longer. Now, this is the key, for longer. Because if you just allow people to read your post till the end and maybe react to it or leave a comment, that's very quick. That's very short. They're not staying on your post for super long. Why am I saying this? It's like you walking through a mall and you see all these stores. And you may just go into a store to check a price tag and you're out. Quite literally, that's it. You go in, you check a price tag, you're out. You go in, you check something out, you're out. But what store keeps you inside? Which one keeps you inside? It's the one that can offer you slightly more than the other one. So I do that by asking really good questions in the posts. I always ask my readers to contribute under the post. And I actually posted about this in my last post. I titled it 3 LinkedIn secrets I found out this year. And one of them was regarding asking questions in the PS section of your posts. And I trained this to this is how I train all my clients and the companies that I train. A PS should always be there. I don't mean 7 times out of 10, 8 times. No, I'll always encourage a PS at the end of a post, unless you are 100% confident that the post itself is so strong that it just naturally awakes a reaction from people. Unless you can guarantee that the writing is really strong, use a PS every single time. And in that PS, ask a question, and this is the key part. The question you ask should be very easy to respond to.
Yeah.
There's a really cool book on website design, and it's a psychological book when you really think about it. It's called Don't Make Me Think. If people read your posts and you ask a question, very, very complicated question, what are they going to do? They're going to start thinking. You can't expect from people to devote that kind of time to you, especially hundreds or tens of thousands of people who may see your post today. You can't expect them, right? You can't guarantee for them to stay and think about what you just asked them. But that's only half the problem. The other half of the problem is, now that they've thought about your question for 30, 40 seconds, they also have to write out their answer for another 34 seconds. And there's no way that people are going to be staying. So when you're asking your question in the post, make sure that it's super easy to respond to. Make sure that the answer is instant. Don't make me think. So if you're writing a failure story about whatever, do not ask me, what is your biggest failure story? I have to think about it. It would probably take me 30, 60 seconds to first figure out, like, wait a second, what is my biggest failure story? Then I have to go to, down this trip down memory lane and figure out every single time I failed in life and what is the biggest one, and so on and so forth. And then when I finally want to write my answer or my comment, it will be a long comment. No, instead, ask something very specific, like a yes or no question. Ask for a number. Ask for a very specific thing. or a word, whatever that is. Ask for an adjective, ask for something, right? Or if you're giving 3, 4, 7 examples in the post, ask which one is your favorite, which one was the most surprising, which one caught you off guard, right? Because it makes the answer instant. And then after that, even after you ask a really good question in the post, don't forget about the pinned comments, guys. Pinned comments are my thing. I remember just a year ago, slightly more, they weren't a thing. I fell in love with the idea of writing pinned comments, not just one. Most folks would just do one where they would leave a link or a source or
Mhm.
something. I started to use pinned comments as a way to, again, keep people on the post for longer. But this is ultimately what built my community on LinkedIn. We're talking about building a following versus building a community. Those two words are completely different. You see a whole lot of accounts on LinkedIn with 100,000 followers, but they don't have a community. They do not have a community. They struggle to get 100 comments on a post because they don't have a community, or at least not a strong one, not a huge one. Pinned comments are your way to keep people on your posts, but also to encourage your folks, your readers, your followers to communicate among each other. What I do in my pinned comments every single day, I'll give you my secret. Like I've actually written about this, I think a couple of months ago, my entire pinned comment strategy. I will write anywhere from 3 to 7, sometimes even more pinned comments every single day without fail. These days, I feel like I'm averaging 5 or 6. But yeah, 3 minimum, bare minimum. 7, it's like where I feel like, okay, I shouldn't go more than that. There was one post I remember, but that post went bananas. There was one post where I had 17, I don't even know what it was. 17 tips for writing or something, 17 tips for, I don't even know. All I know is there were 17 tips in the post.
Yeah.
And I did 17 pinned comments, breaking down each and every one into another lesson. But that post went bananas, right? Because people really appreciated it. They felt like they got a course,
Yeah,
right? In
that
the
sounds
form of
like
a
it.
text only post. And that's what I do every single day. I don't mind giving more. I don't mind over delivering. I don't mind oversharing. I don't care, to tell you the truth. I really don't care. Why? Because I have a community. I feel like it is my obligation to deliver, to over deliver, right? If I'm just writing a post and I'm giving you this teeny tiny tip, I feel like I'm back in January 2020. It's like, nobody's following, no one cares. But I do know at this point that people do care and people want to care. You just have to give them a reason to care. So pin comments, write bonus points. Always. I do this thing where even if I add up, so for example, the last post, if you go to my profile right now, it will say 3 LinkedIn secrets I found out this year, and there was a bonus in the post. But I also gave 2 bonuses in the pinned comments as well. So that post has 3 actionable points and 3 bonuses as well. I also have behind the scenes almost every single day, especially when I'm traveling. I
Mm.
will quite literally get off stage. I'll take a selfie and I'm like, hey guys, I'm in Denmark right now. Just walked off the stage and here I am, talking to you. And I will ask a question about it. Like, where do you want me to visit next? Can you invite me to your country? Do you know a conference in your country where I could visit? I'll keep the theme going where I feel like the community doesn't miss a beat. They don't feel like I'm just there and the post is scheduled and that's it. This mini bit of information. No, they always know it's a pool of information with every single post. And it genuinely doesn't matter if it's an educational post, if it's a post about writing, personal branding, whatever, or if it's a personal post. I don't care because every single day in those pinned comments, you will get bonuses. You will get extra questions. I will push for extra discussions. I will add behind the scenes pictures. I will call for reposts even in the comments. I will do it all, but every single day. And that is the key to building a good community because if you really think about it, if you're the founder, if you're the leader, if you're the guide, and you're not there to guide, who's going to show up? People are going to scatter around. They're going to each go their own ways. That's the definition of community. If you're not there to guide them, they're not going to show up. They're going to be elsewhere in everybody else's post, but not your own. So pause for now. Yeah, I feel like this was a super long answer.
That was incredibly insightful, Yasmin. I learned so many tips from you. I actually wanted you to uncover your pinned comment strategy because you do that so well. And I think it's something you have to put a practice to because over time your audience will understand and get to know that you're leaving pinned comments. They're not going to know that if you're doing it inconsistently, which is something that I need to work on. Hearing this incredible lesson from you. And I love that perspective that you have an obligation to your audience, which is why you don't gatekeep. That is how you build a strong community. Lovely. What else is working on LinkedIn right now? Give us the tea, Yasmin. What I know that you're a mad scientist when it comes to learning the platform, and you introduce all these trends yourself. Like you're the person who introduced the pinned comment strategy in the first place. What types of content perform best on LinkedIn? Would you say?
My advice to you is stop caring about what works, honestly, because
Yeah.
there's always going to be something that's working. There's always going to be something that's trendy. Chances are, though, what's working right now may not align with your niche, your brand, your topicality, your industry, whatever. Right now, the thing you see working on LinkedIn is remote work topicality. People who are like very low in their life and they're like an underdog and they're working their way up, like interview candidates, succeeding at a job, or someone got fired and they made it to a new position, or people sharing their ups and downs. But I feel like it's just regurgitating every single year. All of these things have worked a year ago, right? But the problem becomes when too many people start doing it, and then it just becomes annoying. I'll give you the example of November 2022, actually, sorry, when ChatGPT got announced. Everyone and their mother
Yeah.
was
Oh my
talking
God.
about ChatGPT. Everyone. And I was actually analyzing because
Hmm.
LinkedIn was pushing those topics for sure. If you just use the word ChatGPT, your post could have been about burgers, pizza, macaroni.
Mhm.
If you use the word ChatGPT in your post, it would have gotten more reach just because you used it. Problem is, a whole lot of people would then garner a whole lot of followers in a very short time span. But then, as soon as that trend is over, as soon as that giant bubble just pops, the trends die down as well. But the bigger problem is now you've got a whole much larger, but also a whole new audience on your profile. And they're not there because of the things you actually do. They're there because of ChatGPT, for example. But if ChatGPT has nothing to do with your work right now, your industry, your clientele, you just messed everything up for yourself. So this is why I always say, do not chase trends. Do not hope that what works for someone else will also work for you. I wrote about this a couple of weeks ago. I wrote, trends and hope are not a LinkedIn strategy. A whole lot of people feel like it is. That's the way to go. Like you're just changing your strategy and you're hopping on to the next trend and the next trend and the next trend. And you'll see a whole lot of accounts on LinkedIn, to be fair, with 300,000 followers, 200, 400, 500,000, where they're doing the same exact thing over and over again. They're just hopping from one trend to another. In 2022, 90% of their content was ChatGPT. In 2023, 90% of the content was just infographics, irrelevant infographics. In 2024, right now, they're just talking about remote work, employees, this and that, workplace culture. But when you look at their profile, it has nothing to do with any of that. It's like, oh, this person is a mindset coach. And I'm like, what the hell? Why are they talking about ChatGPT? Why are they talking about this and that? It has nothing to do with their brand. And then the one time they finally feel like, oh, I've got so many new people. I've got so many new followers. Let me write a lead generation post. Let me plug my service. Let me show people who I am. People can trust me. That post, sorry, gets 80 likes, 8 comments. You know, that's when you've built a following and you have not built a community. You have not built a user base, if you will, a consumer base, a follower base of people who trust you. Trust is actually measurable for me, at least. I feel like long term you can actually measure it, and it comes through in this example that I've just demonstrated, where people will just chase the latest trends. They'll keep posting on viral topics. They'll go viral a million times in a year, But then the second they start promoting their business, you will notice that their own audience does not trust them. Why? Because you haven't built your following on trust and educating them. You've built your following on random topics and you've acquired the masses, but not the right masses. So it's not a matter of how many followers you have. It's a matter of how many good followers you have. So there you go.
I think that was the best answer for, not hopping on trends. And I knew that this would come from you because you preached that. And that's exactly what I think as well, that trends are a fad. And if you build your personal brand based on that, then your personal brand is going to be a fad as well. And you definitely don't want that. Lovely. And
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'll
yeah,
give you something else though, by the way. And this is not to toot my own horn. This is just to give you an example that you don't necessarily have to follow the trends for you to make it work. This year, you want to know how many carousels I've posted?
none, I think. Yeah,
Zero. But
exactly.
every single time I did post one, every single one of them went viral because I make sure that I'm not just posting them because, oh, the algorithm prefers carousels this time. Oh, I don't care. I'm going to push a carousel when I finally have something worthy. Do you know how many infographics I've posted in total in all my years on LinkedIn?
I think I don't think
Three,
I've seen many. Three, no way.
three, four, maybe three, four, but the
Oh,
fourth
wow.
one was like examples in total.
Amazing.
Yeah. So this is just proof that you do not necessarily have to video
Yeah,
as well. Like right now with the new video feed, I have zero videos on LinkedIn, zero whatsoever. I don't do video. My last three posts are text only posts, and all of them did really well.
yeah.
And the thing is, you just have to focus on your writing and actually knowing how to communicate to your audience. And if you do add a visual, make sure it's relevant. Don't just add a
Yeah.
random selfie. Or if you do add an infographic, don't just add it because you feel like it's trendy, right? And you didn't just pack it up with a bunch of random information. No, make sure it's actually actionable. 99% of those infographics out there are not actionable at all. They're just packed with random information to make it seem like they're packed with valuable information. But being information rich and being value rich, two different things. So just an example, I did not follow the rules at all. I did not follow the trends at all. Sure, I will experiment. I will test out. I will write the occasional remote work post just to see if it will work. But even then, I will be very adamant about how I write it and how I connect it back to what I do. I'm not just going to randomly write something where I feel like, oh, imagine if tomorrow I came out and wrote about workplace culture, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't fit into my brand. I could technically say, oh, I run a completely remote work team. We just hired someone in the workplace culture, Zoom, this and that. I'm like, come on, right? That's
Yeah.
when you know I'm kind of manipulating the post and the topicality and everything. But you don't need to do it, honestly. Just
Yeah.
write what you love and write what you feel is right. Trust your gut. Trust your writing, guys. Trust your writing a whole lot more.
Exactly, because if I would expect writing tips from you or LinkedIn growth strategies, and all of a sudden, if you're talking about something else, that would just come off as a fluke, perhaps. Um, and before this call, as I mentioned, I spoke to Justin Wright, and he told me that he had this coaching call with you in which you told him
Shout
all
out
these
Justin
writing
Wright.
strategies. Yeah, he's amazing with the content that he keeps producing since that call he mentioned. And I have been so curious ever since then to know what strategies did you exactly teach him when it comes to writing. And I would like to get a glimpse of that, what a coaching call with Jay would look like in the next few minutes that we have. So, Yasmin, spill the tea on writing tips. What elements should you include on should you have for a perfect LinkedIn post for yourself?
I'll just tell you this. First off, a whole lot of the creators I work with, I coach a lot of creators. You'd be surprised which of the creators who are out there right now dominating and however many gazillion followers. I work with a lot of them, which is a proud moment for me. But I feel like
And
every single one, every single one who books these, either just one-off calls or books the entire coaching program with me, every single one of them comes to me with a different agenda. Every single one of them has a different goal. And that is exactly how I approach every single coaching call. See, when I coach other LinkedIn creators, I'm not focused on giving them the most views, viral posts, this or that. I'm focused on giving them what their business needs. Now, for example, in the example of Justin Wright, who you mentioned when we were on our call, Justin was like, dude, I don't need more money. I don't need more clients, right? I just need to build my following. I just need to become a thought leader, right, over time. So the strategy is go broad with the content because he doesn't need lead gen. He doesn't need to grow a newsletter, blah, blah, blah. At that point, I just want to go viral. That was a strategy. And there's, again, a whole lot of ways you can go viral. Just look at what's working at that point. Again, still to this day, bosses, workplace stories, blah, blah, blah. We found a way to make it super broad, write it super technically and very, very easy to consume. Bam, posted it within 12 hours. I think he just sends me a message. Dude, this is the best performing post I've ever had. And he received like 50,000 followers in a month, quite
Wow.
literally.
Yeah. That post
That
had
post
about
did like, that
25,000.
post after
Yeah.
our call did, I think right now is sitting at around 90,000 or 100,000 likes. Yeah. There's other creators out there. There was, I mean, I don't want to name people. You can just go to my profile and check the recommendations. You'll see who I'm working with, and a whole lot of people like their results. The funny thing is also random, but I never talk about these results in my content
Hmm.
ever because I don't sell. I don't sell in my content. That's my thing, and I feel like I don't need to because the content always does the talking, right? It just pulls you in. And there's other creators. One we did an overhaul of her strategy, and quite literally within 24 hours she got a seven-figure job offer because that's what we were optimizing for, right? It was positioning more so than just content, right? Going viral. Another lady was more focused on lead gen, so we were focused on optimizing the offer, not the content, not the posts, the offer itself, like what she's actually bringing and pitching to the clients. Within 24 hours, $15,000, quite literally. You'd pay 1,000 for the call, you get 15 back, for example. It really depends on your goals. And I feel like a whole lot of people, that's when, see, it's funny. They don't realize they have a problem until I tell them that that's their problem. A whole lot of folks will book my calls, my coaching, and they'll be like, Jay, I need this, I need that, I need that. And then I'm just like, well, what do you need all that for when this sucks? And I'll be very blunt with my coaching clients. You can ask anybody. I'm the kindest guy on LinkedIn in the comments, but kind does not mean I withhold information. Kind does not mean I will sugarcoat, certain things that I will tell you, oh, this is beautiful, this is great, let's kind of make it better. No, I will tell you, this sucks. I will use these two words. And that's why the clients love it because I'm very open about it. And I will tell you, no, this is not what you need. If you're focused on growing a following on LinkedIn and your offer is not solid, here's your money back. And I actually have done this to people. Here's your money back. Focus on that. But that's not your problem. Your problem is your offer because I can make it go viral tomorrow and you're going to have 10,000 views on your profile tomorrow, which are going to result in $0 because we haven't fixed your offer, right? Content is not your problem, for example. So that's what a coaching call looks like with me. I analyze, I probe, I ask a lot of questions, and I never focus on what the person thinks their problem is until I actually analyze the entire situation. Because 9 times out of 10, the people who come to me and they have like goals in mind, we identify that something else is the problem. And that's when we focus on that based on their goals. So I will ask, what are you looking for? What are you looking to get out of LinkedIn? Is it more money, more leads, more clients? Or if a certain person might come to me and say, oh, I got enough clients for the moment. I'm not really looking for more. One or two, sure, but that's not my main priority. My main priority is growing my following, right? Or someone might say, no, I have enough clients, I have enough followers, but my engagement is really low. And then we focus on that. So it really depends on the person. But yeah, I would talk to you. I would ask you a whole lot of questions, and I would also listen a whole lot because that's my job as a coach, right?
Yeah.
When you really think about sports,
Hmm.
football, soccer, basketball, a coach isn't someone who walks you like a baby. A coach understands what you're good at and what you're not good at, and a coach points you in the right direction. And they're shouting behind you. They're still not babying you. holding your hand to cross
Yeah.
the street. No, they're going to shout at you from the other side for you to cross the street. They're going to point you in the right direction. So that's what I do for a lot of my clients. I try to understand what their problems are. And thankfully, I'm very experienced in this marketing world, 15 years now. I got a whole lot of experience in different industries and different, I would say, groups of services, whether it's product launches, whether it's growing an email list, whether it's websites, whether it's online content like LinkedIn. So I take all that knowledge and I just try to understand what's best for the client at first. And even if
Mm.
it's not what they expected, they're gonna get the best outcome, hopefully. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
I
I
mean
think
that's essentially how I approach my coaching. I try to do what's best for you based on what you need and based on what your business actually needs, not what you necessarily want.
Mhm. And that's the difference between a good coach and a great coach. You can get all the knowledge that you possibly can from a coach, but if you're not feeling inspired to move in the right direction, you're not going to make any progress. And I think that's what lacks with a lot of people. We are consuming all this knowledge on LinkedIn, but we're not applying it correctly and things like that. Since we have very few minutes left, if you guys have any questions, pop them in the chat box. I lost my chain of thought actually because there's something that I picked up from your answer just now, which was about offers. Um, what's I think that's the number one struggle with a lot of people in when it comes to conversions and finding clients on LinkedIn. What would you say? What strategies would you recommend to anyone to perfect their offer?
Talk to someone like me. No. Um,
Hire a coach, yeah.
yeah. When it comes to figuring out your offer, so first figure out who your actual target audience is, right? Because you can have the best product in the world, but if there's no need for it, if there's not an audience for it, what's the product for? And you'll see this with smartphones a lot these days. They'll come up with this crazy camera feature, zoom lens 50x. Who needs that? Like, no one needs that, right? And we understand that people don't need that because when it comes to market and people buy these phones, no one uses those features. Even right now, how many of us use more than 3 AI tools on a daily basis, not weekly, monthly, daily basis? And there's millions of them out there. You've probably written about them. You've probably checked them out, but how many of them do you use? Same goes for your offer, right? If it's something that not a whole lot of people can actually find value in, it's probably going to be useless. But if it's something that people need, there is a demand for it, right? Focus on two things. Focus on making it as we have balloons.
What is
There we
that?
go.
Okay.
Focus on making it as premium as possible. When I say premium as possible, I don't mean that. So here's what a lot of folks get wrong when it comes to offers. The offer will often just be book my, for example, I have a LinkedIn Power Hour, but that's not the offer. That's what the name of the offer is. But a whole lot of people will just say, that's my offer. I have a LinkedIn Power Hour. Yeah, but what is it? What does it include? What do you offer? How is it structured? What will I get out of it? What do I, as a client, get? What is a problem that I'm solving? What is point A at minute 1 of the call? What is point Z at minute 60 of the call? Your offer is a journey. Always think of your offer as a journey. What are you offering that when people pay you changes after you've actually completed the work? What changes? That's the offer. The offer is not the name. The offer is not the product. The offer is actually what they get at the very end, not at the beginning. It's the same with, copywriting. I've mentioned the difference between calls to action and calls to value, CTA versus CTV. A CTA is typically the very first step. Download my ebook. Okay? Perfectly clear, but perfectly reasonable. But is it valuable? Like, why am I downloading your ebook? If it's a fitness guide, what is the purpose of me going through your entire ebook? Oh, you will lose 20 pounds in 30 days. There we go. That's the offer. That's what I help you. And then if you have a target audience, for example, busy CEOs, I help busy CEOs lose 20 pounds in 30 days with virtual fitness sessions. Bam. That's the offer. But for a whole lot of folks, it will just be get my ebook, get my weight loss PDF. See,
Yeah.
see the difference? Same
Yeah.
exact thing, but it's not positioned as a premium. So that's step number one. And step number two is really the clarity of it. A whole lot of people will structure their offer in a really good way where you have the value, but they don't know how to communicate it. Like they genuinely don't know how to communicate it. So focus on two things. Focus on talking directly to your audience. Forget everyone else. Forget going viral with your offer. You don't care about going viral with your offer. You care about having a touch point in the heart of your target person, that audience who is actually going to buy from you. And that's probably just 1% of your overall followers. Focus on them. Your entire profile on LinkedIn, from the banner, headline, link, the blue link, the featured links, is only for 1% of your followers. It's only for the people who are actually going to buy from you. Not everyone visiting. Not everyone visiting will be your customer. Focus on them. The question is, what do they want to hear? If you're talking to busy CEOs about weight loss, what's the biggest objection that you're solving for them? A lack of time. They don't know. They don't have time to go to a gym. So what do? You structure virtual sessions for them. That's what you should focus on. Focus on that in the banner. Communicate it very clearly that these are virtual sessions. If you want to add a cherry on top, say that these are 30 minutes. If you want to add more, say that you do it 5 times per week, 3 times per week. But always mention the end goal in mind, the actual offer, which is not weight loss training or weight loss program, 30-day weight loss program. None of that is telling me what I'm getting. Say to me, you're going to lose 20 pounds in 30 days. That's the offer. So 2 things. Again, focus on making your offer premium and focus on making it clear to your target audience. Not everyone, just your target audience, because you don't care about everyone. You care about just the people who want to pay you.
Definitely. And with clarity, your sales funnel is going to be so smooth as well. You will generate the right interest. You won't then generate, XYZ coming into your offer who are not relevant. Love that answer, Yasmin. Thank you so much. I do have a lot of, I did have a few more questions on writing, but I think for that, just follow Yasmin on LinkedIn. He posts plenty